Salad Hosseini once said, "A boy who does not stand up for himself becomes a man who cannot stand up to anything." Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guest, I have lied to you. Ever since I joined Advocates Toastmasters, I portrayed myself as mild-mannered, when in fact I am a reluctant hero. I'm an ordinary person who has risen up to the occasion, reached the zenith of the occasion, and conquered a mighty foe. You see, ever since I was a boy, my parents, for the purpose of the speech, said one thing to me: don't get into fights, at least at school. And for me, this was a problem because at my high school, there were many fights. There were 200 students at my high school, half of them boys, about one fight every month. That's 10 months in a year, a school year. In 6th grade, 7 to 12. If you do the math, that is an average of there is a 120% chance of being in a school fight in your high school career. So, I just realized I'm not supposed to say so. I laid low. I used nonviolent conflict resolution. When somebody said to me, "Hey Paul, do you want to fight?" I would say, "No." And that usually worked pretty good. But one day, a very, very large boy, several grades ahead of me, decided that we were going to fight. He didn't ask me. He started pushing me towards the school exit. He said to me, "We're going to settle this outside." And he added apologetically, "The janitor doesn't like it when I get blood in the hallway." I smelled alcohol in his breath. I don't think I could have reasoned with him. And I tried pushing back, but it was in vain. It was too big. Soon, I found myself standing outside in my socks alone with my oppressor. Usually in school fights, if you've ever seen one, you're surrounded by a ring of other students egging you on to duke it out. But because this was an unscheduled fight, and it was a bitterly cold January day, we were alone. I quickly realized that I had two choices. I could stand up and take my beating and gain some sense of, I guess, resolution, of dignity, knowing that I took this and people would respect me for taking that. Or I could run away like a sissy. I ran away like a sissy. It was 2 kilometers roughly to my home. And the last thing I remember looking back and seeing this big giant bully running after me, yelling at me, slipping on the ice and falling. I got home and I quickly realized that my parents weren't going to take this very well. They, like the school, believed that if I got in a fight, that it takes 2 people to start one. And that if I was in a fight, I had obviously done something wrong and I should be punished for it. So I decided to go back to school. When I went into the entrance, the first thing that happened was my principal whisked me right into his office. "Did you get in a fight?" I feigned astonishment. "What, me? Am I injured?" I looked around. I held out my knuckles, which were pristine. He examined me suspiciously. He looked at my socks. He said, "Why aren't you wearing any shoes?" And I just noticed that my socks were covered in snow and sopping wet, and my feet were very cold. I hadn't realized that before. And I thought about what to say. I'm on the track team, and running without shoes strengthens your ankles. He did not believe me at all. But he let me go with a look that said, "You win this time, Mulcahy." As I walked towards my class, boys began patting me on the back. Girls wooed at me, which was odd because the only time girls wooed was because of violence in my school. But soon I figured out what had happened. The bully had re-entered the school and told everyone that I had run away. But in his inebriation, he had neglected to notice that when he had fallen, he'd hurt his nose and began bleeding on his face, his shirt, and even all over the hallway. Nobody believed him. That day, it passed into legend that I had beat up this tyrant. Whenever that bully stepped out of line, the smallest person would say to him, "Do we need to get Paul?" From then on, I stayed very far away from him. My parents never found out what happened, and I practice nonviolent conflict resolution to this day. Madam Toastmaster.